The silence in the dropship was palpable as the small team of elite human operatives hurtled through the dark void towards the colossal alien warship known as the Dread Scepter. The warship, a menacing behemoth of twisted metal and pulsing energy fields, hung in the orbit of Jupiter, a stark silhouette against the gas giant's swirling storms. Captain Elena Mora watched the looming ship grow larger on the view screen, her team's faces bathed in the soft blue light of the cabin. Each member was clad in a sleek, dark combat suit, equipped with the latest in stealth technology and armaments designed specifically for this mission. 5 minutes to insertion, announced Lieutenant Hawks, the dropship pilot, his voice steady despite the high stakes. Elena turned to her team, her eyes locking onto each member in turn. This is it. Remember, our goal is to disable the warship's core. We take out the core, we cripple their fleet. We do this right, we might just turn the tide of the war. Nods and murmurs of affirmation met her words. The team had trained for months for this operation, each member handpicked for their expertise. Among them were demolitions expert Sergeant Marco Diaz, communications specialist Dr. Emily Shawn, and stealth operative Corporal Liam Ford. Together they represented the best chance Earth had of pulling off this audacious attack. As the dropship approached the Dread Scepter, the sheer scale of the warship became even more daunting. It was a fortress in space, bristling with armaments and shielded by a high-energy barrier that shimmered like a mirage against the cold backdrop of space. Approaching the entry point, Hawks said, maneuvering the ship towards a less guarded section of the warship's hull that intelligence had identified as a potential weak spot. Deploying in 3, 2, 1, go! With a hiss of compressed air, the side hatch slid open, exposing the team to the vacuum of space. One by one, they jumped, propelling themselves towards the alien warship with jetpacks. The vastness of space enveloped them, the silence a stark contrast to the adrenaline that surged through their veins. Liam, leading the charge, reached the hull first. He placed a small, powerful breaching charge against the warship's outer layer, a composite material unknown to Earth scientists, but vulnerable, they hoped, to their new explosive technology. The team positioned themselves safely away as the charge detonated, a muffled thump echoing through their helmet comms. The explosion tore a hole in the hull, granting them access. They entered quickly, their bodies tensed for battle. Inside, the warship was a labyrinth of corridors lined with alien symbols and bathed in an eerie green light. Elena activated her suit's cloaking device, the technology rendering her nearly invisible. Her team did the same, disappearing from sight as they moved silently through the corridors. Their intel had provided them with a detailed layout of the ship, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality of being aboard an operational alien warship. The air was thick with a metallic scent, and the hum of the ship's massive engines vibrated through the walls. Emily, keeping an eye on their digital map, whispered into the comms. "Turn left up ahead. The core should be 2 levels down. There's an elevator shaft we can use." As they reached the elevator, Marco quickly rigged the controls to descend without triggering alarms. The lift moved silently, descending into the bowels of the warship. Tension mounted with each passing level, the possibility of discovery looming over them like a specter. Upon reaching the designated level, the doors slid open to reveal a massive chamber that pulsed with energy. In its center stood the core, a towering structure of glowing energy tubes and spinning rings. "This is it," Elena breathed, her voice low. "Marco, you're up." Marco nodded, moving forward to set the charges around the core. As he worked, the rest of the team kept watch, their weapons ready. Suddenly, a low hiss echoed through the chamber. They were not alone. From the shadows emerged a group of alien soldiers, their skin shimmering with the same metallic hue as the walls of the ship. The fight was inevitable. Elena raised her weapon, her other hand signaling her team. "Engage with extreme prejudice," she commanded. The chamber erupted into chaos, the sound of gunfire and energy weapons clashing violently. As the battle raged, Marco continued his work, methodically placing the last of the charges. "Charges set!" he shouted over the din. "Everyone, fall back!" Elena ordered, leading her team back towards the elevator. They moved as one, covering each other's retreat as they retraced their steps back to the breach point. The warship shuddered around them, alarms finally blaring, as the ship's crew responded to the intrusion and the imminent threat. The corridors were now swarming with alien defenders, making the team's escape not just difficult, but nearly impossible. Elena knew they had to move fast. Their survival and the success of the mission depended on it. "Emily, jam their communications. Buy us some time," Elena commanded as they neared the elevator shaft. Emily swiftly set up a portable device that sent out a scrambling signal, temporarily cutting off the alien soldiers' coordination. With their communications down, the team exploited the confusion among the alien ranks. They dodged through intersecting corridors, the sounds of their pursuers' disoriented shouts echoing behind them. The ship's internal defenses activated, with security drones deploying from hidden compartments in the ceiling. Liam took point, his sharpshooter skills crucial as he took down drone after drone, his shots precise and deadly. "Keep moving. I've got these," he yelled back, covering the rear as the team pushed forward. They reached the breach point, the cold void of space visible through the gaping hole in the ship's hull. One by one, they dove out, activating their jetpacks to propel themselves back towards the waiting dropship. Hawks, having hovered nearby, managed to evade detection by masking the dropship's heat signature, a risky maneuver that fortunately paid off. As they boarded the dropship, Marco hit the detonator. The charges they had placed around the warship's core exploded in a brilliant cascade of light and energy, the shockwave rocking the dread scepter. The ship's energy core, now critically damaged, began to fail, causing power outages and secondary explosions throughout the vessel. "Pilot us out of here now," Elena commanded, strapping herself in as the rest of the team did the same. Hawks wasted no time, pulling the dropship away from the crippled warship at breakneck speed. Behind them, the dread scepter began to list, its silhouette darkening against the backdrop of Jupiter's swirling storms as its systems went offline. The dropship cleared the immediate blast radius just as the warship's main reactor went critical. A massive explosion lit up the sector, the shockwave buffeting their ship despite the distance. They felt the heat and force as a tangible reminder of the narrow margin between victory and annihilation. Back on Earth, the news of the daring raid and the spectacular destruction of the alien warship spread quickly. Elena and her team were hailed as heroes, their audacious gambit celebrated as a turning point in the ongoing war against the alien aggressors. In the aftermath, as military analysts and strategists pored over the details of the operation, it was clear that this victory was more than just a tactical win. It was a symbolic triumph that showcased the indomitable spirit of humanity, a clear message to any alien force that underestimated the resolve and bravery of Earth's defenders. The team was debriefed extensively, their insights into the alien warship's design and defenses proving invaluable for future engagements. As they shared their experiences, it became apparent that the mission's success was not just due to their individual skills, but to their ability to work seamlessly as a team, each member playing a crucial role in the operation's outcome. Elena, reflecting on the mission, knew that this was just one battle in a larger conflict. However, the victory at the Dread Scepter had given humanity hope and a renewed determination to defend their home against any threat, no matter how formidable. As peace talks began to surface, with alien factions reaching out for negotiations, influenced by the impact of their warship's destruction, Elena and her team prepared for the next phase of their service. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they were ready, their bonds strengthened and their resolve unshaken, forever proud to stand as guardians of Earth. Months passed since the destruction of the Dread Scepter, and the ripple effects of that operation were felt across the galaxy. The power vacuum it created among the alien coalition led to internal disputes and a weakening of their united front against Earth. This strategic shift gave the United Earth Command a much-needed respite and an opportunity to strengthen defenses and foster new alliances with other alien races who were also feeling the oppression of the coalition. Captain Elena Mora, now promoted to Major for her leadership, found herself at the center of strategic planning for Earth Space Command. Her team, lauded as heroes, were each given critical roles in the ongoing defense efforts. They trained new recruits, sharing their experience and insights, which were now part of the command's training manuals. In the wake of the warship's fall, peace negotiations began, spearheaded by Earth's diplomats with Major Mora and her team, providing security and strategic advice. The alien coalition, realizing the futility of their aggression and now wary of Earth's capabilities, were more inclined to discuss terms of peace rather than continue a war that could lead to their ultimate destruction. During one of the planning sessions for the upcoming Peace Summit, Major Mora reviewed the security protocols. The summit will be held on neutral ground at the Titan station in the Saturn orbit. It's well protected, but we must be vigilant. The destruction of the Dread Scepter was a significant blow to them, and while we hope for peace, we must prepare for any contingencies. Her team, gathered around the holotable displaying the station and its defenses, nodded in agreement. Corporal Liam Ford, now Sergeant, was responsible for the tactical deployment of the security teams. We'll have 2 layers of security checks, external for all incoming ships and internal for all summit attendees. No exceptions, he detailed, marking the points on the hologram where his teams would be positioned. Dr. Emily Shan, promoted to Commander of Communications, outlined the communications strategy. All channels will be monitored. We've installed new scramblers to prevent any unauthorized signals. Diplomacy needs transparency, but we must safeguard against espionage. Sergeant Marco Diaz, now overseeing the Ordnance Division, added, all personal weapons will be disabled within the summit area. We have non-lethal deterrents in place should anyone try to disrupt the proceedings. As the summit approached, tensions on Earth were high. The public was hopeful, yet cautious. The war had left deep scars, and the idea of sitting across from their recent enemies was not easy to accept. However, the potential for peace spurred a guarded optimism across communities worldwide. On the day of the summit, the USS Valor, carrying Major Mora and her team, docked at Titan Station. The station was a marvel of engineering, a vast wheel spinning to generate gravity, its hubs teeming with delegates from different worlds. The station's central auditorium, where the summit was to be held, was a large circular chamber with a transparent dome that offered a breathtaking view of Saturn's swirling clouds. As delegates arrived, Major Mora and her team were on high alert, their senses attuned to any anomaly. The initial greetings were stiff but courteous, with each side eyeing the other warily, yet with a mutual recognition that this was a historic moment. The summit began with formal declarations, each leader expressing their desires for peace and the terms they believed were essential for a lasting truce. Earth's president, a seasoned diplomat named Haruto Tanaka, spoke of forgiveness, cooperation, and a shared future, his voice resonant and sincere. Today we stand at a crossroads, President Tanaka said. The path behind us is littered with the debris of war and the graves of the fallen. Ahead lies the promise of peace and collaboration. Let us choose the future over the past, understanding over conflict. As negotiations progresses, Major Mora watched from the sidelines, her attention never wavering. The discussions were intense, with several moments when it seemed as if old grievances might derail the proceedings. However, the mediators, skilled in their craft, skillfully navigated these treacherous waters, steering the talks back on course. After days of negotiations, an agreement was reached. The Treaty of Titan was signed amid flashes of cameras and the applause of those present. It outlined the steps towards disarmament, the establishment of a joint exploration and trade initiative, and the creation of an interstellar council to address future disputes. The signing was broadcast across Earth and throughout the participating systems, marking the end of hostilities and the beginning of a new era. As the delegates shook hands, smiles tentative but growing more confident, humanity breathed a collective sigh of relief. In the aftermath, Major Mora and her team returned to Earth as champions of peace. They were celebrated, but for them, the true victory was the promise of a future without war. As they watched Earth's cities rebuild and children play in peace, they knew that their efforts had secured not just a momentary ceasefire, but a foundation for lasting harmony. Reflecting on the journey from the dark days of the conflict to this hopeful dawn, Major Mora felt a profound sense of accomplishment and humility. Her team, once soldiers in a desperate battle, were now guardians of peace. They had adapted to the changing tides of war and diplomacy, proving themselves as versatile as they were brave. Life after the summit found Major Mora taking on a new role as an advisor to the newly formed Interstellar Council. Her expertise in security and her experience in handling sensitive negotiations made her an invaluable asset. The Council was tasked with implementing the Treaty of Titan, a complex endeavor involving numerous species and systems, each with its own interests and cultural nuances. The Council meetings often reminded her of the delicate dance of the summit negotiations, but with the treaty in place, there was a framework to handle disputes and a shared commitment to uphold the peace. The challenges were many, but the collaborative spirit of the Council members, influenced perhaps by the memory of what had been achieved at Titan Station, often led to innovative solutions that honored the diverse needs of the galaxy's inhabitants. Meanwhile, Sergeant Liam Ford led the security operations for the Council, ensuring that the meetings were conducted in a safe and neutral environment. His team was composed of members from various species, a testament to the new era of cooperation. They trained together, blending techniques and strategies from across the galaxy to form a cohesive unit that was as effective as it was symbolic of the Union's ideals. Commander Emily Shawn took charge of communications for the Council, developing a robust network that linked the different planetary systems. Her work ensured that decisions and discussions were transmitted in real time across vast distances, keeping the galaxy's citizens informed and engaged with the Council's activities. Sergeant Marco Diaz found his calling in the development of non-lethal technologies for crowd control and personal defense, contributing to the Council's emphasis on diplomacy and civil engagement over military action. His inventions were widely adopted, becoming standard issue for law enforcement and security personnel throughout the member planets. As the years passed, the galaxy saw a period of unprecedented prosperity and exploration. The joint initiatives laid out in the treaty opened new frontiers, both literal and metaphorical. Scientific collaborations led to breakthroughs in technology and medicine, while cultural exchanges enriched the social fabric of countless communities. The peace held, stronger and more resilient than many had dared hope. And at the heart of it all were the human forces who had once infiltrated an alien warship, not just to win a battle, but to pave the way for a future where such battles would no longer define their reality. Major Mora, reflecting on her career from the early days of military service to her diplomatic achievements, knew that true peace was a continuous effort, a garden that needed constant tending. She remained committed to this task, guided by a vision of a galaxy where every child, human or alien, could look up at the stars not with fear, but with wonder and hope.